Welcome to the Walaway. I'm excited for our next guest. We have Coach Mounir of the Spring Creek Spartans, former point guard, played at the collegiate level, played at the international level, and we're going to learn all about his story today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Coach Mounir, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
So, man, I'm going to go straight into it. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, you could have chose to be an engineer, you could have chose to be a doctor, many things you could have pursued. What about basketball caught your eye?
Basketball has been a passion of mine since I was, 7, 8 years old, right? So it has been the vehicle of almost every major decision that I've had. Before I even had it as a career, there were just so many lessons that I learned, so many good people that I met. Some of the biggest, influences on my life were my basketball coaches, my football coaches growing up, and then being the second child in my family, following my older brother basically.
Okay.
So it was the sport that my older brother liked. So that's how I got into basketball in the first place. So with all that being said, I wanted to be able to pass those experiences that I had, all those coaches who, I had coaches who, looked after me for free, 6 a.m. practices and, didn't have to pay for them and all of these different people who sacrificed for me. And I wanted to be able to kind of have that same influence for kids that want to develop and play at the next level and use basketball as a vehicle to a bunch of opportunities.
So, it's good that you brought up the next level, like playing at a higher level. Looking back at your life, okay, again, college level there, international level there. What were you doing early on in life as someone who's younger that prepared you to be more effective and better and athletic and maybe even intelligent with the game of basketball?
Okay. So my brother didn't know a lot, like fundamentally about basketball, but naturally in terms of building a confident athlete, understanding the psychology of sports at a young age, he was looking back at it. It came natural to him, but he was really, really, really a good influence on me. So one of the major things that I look back on is the one-on-one sessions that we used to have when I was super young. So he used to have these lists of NBA players, like a schedule in our bedroom of different NBA players. So it'd be like you're going to play Charles Barkley, you're going to play Allen Iverson, you're going to play Scottie Pippen, and he would literally pretend like he's these NBA players and play against me. So in my mind as a kid, I'm like fascinated by the fact that I'm playing against these guys, and my brother's, when he's Charles Barkley, he's actually emulating, bumping me and, talking like him and all of these things. So it was actually a really fun imagination, like type of situation, more than like learning the fundamentals even or anything like that. It was more about fun. And then I started to really actually kind of believe that I was going to play as a professional at a very young age before I knew what it really even took. So to me, like ultimately building it as a fun activity, but also there was competition in that too. Like, hey, you better watch out. You're playing Iverson tomorrow. He's going to go at your neck. So there was competition, but it was also fun at the same time. I really think that was more important than any drill I've ever done. Was that kind of imagination that my brother had and making it like fun for me to look forward to something competitive basketball related every single day.
It's funny because in my conversations with other coaches, and I'll always ask them, because I have young kids, I'll say, how do you get kids interested and wanting to take this more seriously in terms of becoming a better player? And they say the first thing is fun.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that's basically the catalyst in terms of what got you interested.
Right. And I see that actually when I look at, and not to put anybody down, but because of the international influence, I've seen how typically outside of the United States, basketball is like drilled, and it's almost like the kids look like they're going to work sometimes at a very young age. And there's people who do it that way here too. And I think by the time they get to a certain age, it's like you get the drained athlete. You get the athlete who's like, kind of...
They're burnt out.
Yeah. They look like a guy who's working a 9 to 5 at a warehouse, trying to make ends meet. And I'm like, this is, when our guys, we have our days too. And then I'm like, guys, don't forget this is fun, Don't forget why you're here. This part might not be fun, but don't forget the big picture of it. But if the big picture is all boring, man, that's all they have to look back at. Because some of our kids, they're from countries where I could tell they had some brutal coaching growing up. And when I say, hey, man, this used to be fun, they're like, yeah, not really. A couple of them, like, it hasn't ever been fun. And that part is I think, sad if a kid misses that part of it.
So you brought up your kids a couple times, and obviously you're talking about Spring Creek.
Yeah.
So give us a general overview of the program, and so just give us a general overview of the program, and I have some questions after that.
Absolutely. So Spring Creek Academy, the basketball program is built by international pipelines of undiscovered talent from all over the globe. So right now, currently, we have 12 kids from 6 different countries. And they're housed. It's one of the few programs in the nation where 3 coaches are like full-time. This is what we do. Not only coaching, but guardianship, making sure they have what they need all the time and full guidance. They're not like in a dorm by themselves. They're actually in a household with an assistant coach. And it's probably one of the most, in terms of details of every single step of the kid's day, we're following it.
And we summarize to the audience,
one benefit is the limitation to distraction outside of what you're sending your kid to our program for. So you're sending them to excel academically and athletically, and then you're also looking to turn a boy into a man. So we really cut out and sacrifice some of those social distractions, whether it be looked at positively to the environment and the overall, like, quote unquote fun that the average high school kid may have. We're pretty clear in understanding that that's what they're sacrificing. They might sacrifice a prom, having cheerleaders at their games and fans and the support of what the average high school kid may go through. But I think that's what's given us the expedited growth in the matter of 3 years. So
it's interesting because when I saw some of the former players in the summer in the camp that we met at, and then I saw the new team play their first game, one thing that stood out to me right away was like these guys had like man bodies. They're high schoolers, but they're like physically gifted. Yeah. They're fast, they're strong, they're hungry, they're like disciplined on the court. So it seems like whatever you guys are doing, especially this like more supervision than not, the fact that they're living together, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, they're probably, you probably monitor what they eat more than other coaches would. Yeah. The sleeping schedule, they train and practice at the same location. You guys have a gym over there.
Right.
So it seems like it's working.
Yeah, no, it has. It has. I mean, in our first year, just from a basketball results, we were 7-25 our first year, and then we were 25-6 our second year. So between year 1 and year 2, we made big jumps, and we were state runner-ups our second year. Then in our third year last year, we were national champions and state champions.
Wow!
Only losing 3 games last year, 26-3. So, and this is, year 1 to year 2, our roster wasn't much different.
Wow.
So it's really a testimony to the kids being able to lock in for that period of time, because it's also all year round. There's not another program that's all year round. We had, through COVID, we had some kids who haven't been home for 3 years. So you do the math on it, it's about, 1,000 some odd days of
family.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of work. And even our recovery, it's an active recovery day. We're still looking at that as progression. Even when we rest and take vacation, our ultimate goal is we need this in order to get to the next step. So everything we look at is goal oriented. Even our vacation, it's part of the goal.
It's strange, not strange, but it's interesting because I was watching a video of the team earlier, and you guys have like hyperbaric oxygen chambers.
Yeah.
So it's like you guys are taking everything very seriously. The recovery, the strength building, their sleep, their eating. And I was smirking earlier because when you mentioned like international players, like International Pipeline, someone who's of the Indian origin myself, and I, growing up playing basketball, I would often get physically assaulted on the court sometimes. And especially the better you get, it's like sometimes players are offended that someone who doesn't look like them, it might be giving them the business. So
Right.
is that something that you found as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. So our kids have gotten, especially it gets less and less as people start to realize who you are in the area. But I would say the first 3 years, our kids get, tried. Let's put it that way. So that is also works as motivation for the kids because they know that they're already going to get tried. So they come with a chip on their shoulder, and then I think by the third year it was like, oh, this guy is not looking to get pushed around anymore. So they around anymore. So it happens. It still happens though. We're not. We still get the the opponents that are. Oh, these guys come from somewhere else. They're not tough.
They're not real ballers.
They're not real ballers, and they're not tough. The number one thing that I'm half American, half Algerian, so I see both sides. I grew up here, and then had to get used to playing Algerian basketball, and then come back here and feel like an outsider again as a coach. And I can see the American mentality, which is, especially in the basketball world. Take a lot of pride in basketball in America, right? So somebody comes outside is like, you're not tough enough to play with us. It's the first thing that everybody thinks, So there's always that hurdle for an international that they have to go through. The other thing is we have a couple kids from Texas on our team. Really, obviously you got to be great, open-minded, like good character guys and understanding of the world around you to respect guys from different countries, and they've all fit in very, very well. I'm super impressed with that because it ain't easy. It's like going overseas for those guys
because they're immersed.
They're immersed into a situation that guys are speaking different languages and different cultures. Even Americans aren't that touchy, and then you got guys like hugging each other, and like, that's kind of fruity. So it's really cool to see guys kind of get used to each other. From all over the place. So
that's great for for both sides because I could imagine how much that enhances their overall growth at this young of an age, where they're experiencing other cultures, other languages, other ways of life.
Yep.
So I can see the program actually has more benefits beyond just stereotypical basketball.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning earlier, for you personally, it's not just about the game, but it's about the impact on their lives. So can you kind of elaborate on that and what you mean by that, and
Absolutely. So most of the kids that we recruit, they're not like 5- and 4-star kids. They're kids who are underexposed, underdeveloped, who have potential and are willing to sacrifice family time, social life to get to a certain goal that they may not have gotten if they took the normal route. And that's what I mean is using basketball as an opportunity to get a 4-year scholarship. So 11 of our alumni, all of our graduates, have received scholarships up to this point. And some of these kids, they come from countries, third world countries, not living very comfortably, maybe no basketball future otherwise, maybe no education otherwise, or job opportunity. So using basketball as a vehicle to get to the next level, get your school paid for, change your life. So that's what it's about.
Let's shift gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you. You were talking about a couple of days ago when we were discussing basketball and some of our pet peeves. So, having played at the collegiate level, having played internationally, and now coaching for years, like how have you seen the game change from when you were young, and what are some of the pet peeves that you have in terms of the way the game is played now?
Okay, woo! I'm gonna try to dumb it down to just one or two here.
Okay.
I think the biggest pet peeve that I have is the lack, and it's not from a player standpoint, it's just the complete system of the system doesn't allow anybody to be loyal to anything. Okay, that's number one. So players jump around a lot more, the way people get hired and fired, you wish there was a little bit more stability. I think that also makes it hard for fans to be loyal to a certain team because they get attached to players as well.
Right.
Right? So there's that part of it. As you know, we grew up with Jordan playing for the Bulls.
Right.
You know, Kobe playing for the Lakers. You know, those are the guys that you kind of look at. And there's guys who jumped around, but then you have, you know, Barkley, the Suns. You know, you got
Reggie stayed with the Pacers, Bird stayed with the Suns. I mean,
you can go on and on and on. Yeah, that's how we kind of grew up.
Magic
right?
was with the
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's number one, and then number two, the different way people compete today. It's almost like, you know, there's this more importance of being socially cool with the guy than like wanting to rip his head off. And I think that takes away from the feeling that they really, really do care about winning and losing. It's more about marketing and making sure you get the money.
Get the bag.
You know, it's all about the money. At the end of the day, I'm going home, I got money. It's not, you know, and it didn't feel that way when I was growing up watching basketball. We knew they were getting paid, but that wasn't the focal point of, like, I didn't care what Hakeem Olajuwon was getting paid. I cared that nobody could stop him, you know. But nowadays it seems like there's more of a focal point on making money than...
And being friends. You're right.
And being friends and, you know, let me invite my friend to this team. Let's be buddies instead of competing with each other. Why don't we join each other?
Or even how much they hang out, like in their, again, nothing wrong with it, but like even like in the off season, you see, like in our era, we would have called them like mortal enemies, right?
Yeah.
Like a Michael and a Reggie Miller.
Right.
You wouldn't expect those guys to hang out.
Yeah, you got to have your own camp, and you guys got to develop your own ways of getting better, and then you guys compete based on, you know, your separate ways. You know, that's. You know, I know it's different now.
Yeah.
Even in coaching, I see that, you know, I've had to make, you know, adjustments to that because coaches are friends and things like that, and, you know, we help each other out, and, you know. But we're old school. We're still from that era where it's like, when it's time to go, it's time to go, right? So it's just different in that way. So I sort of appreciate. I was telling you the other day, I appreciate the old school mentality of kind of what MMA is about nowadays.
Yeah.
So I'm watching UFC. These guys are talking up until the fight. Then after the fight, you know, they're dapping each other up, hugging each other. And then afterwards, I don't mind that, you know. Yeah. But it's all about the lead up to the competition.
You have to believe you're going to destroy that dude, right?
Yeah.
And then men, like, that's common. Like, we were talking about the other day, like, you have a friend growing up. You guys might fight and start swinging at one another.
Yeah.
But once it's over, it could be bleeding from your lip. You just hug it out, watch TV, go out, you know, go grab a bite. Everything's cool.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, man. The era and again, it's a different era.
Right.
But I agree. It seems like it's taken away from the competitiveness of the game to an extent.
That chip on the shoulder ain't really there.
Like, I enjoyed watching Bulls Knicks.
Yeah.
Bulls Pacers.
Right.
Right. Even if you look at the early 2000s, Lakers Kings, or Spurs Lakers, or whoever, right?
Right.
Because that was still there, where you're like, it's my boys versus your boys.
Right.
And we're better. We're gonna win.
Right. Right.
Now it's like, if we don't win, I'll ride with you next.
Yeah. Exactly. Interesting.
Exactly. So and then all time for you, give me your all time favorite player and your all time favorite team.
All time favorite player. Ooh, that's tough.
Give me your top three.
I'd have to say Hakeem Olajuwon. Okay. Growing up, he was probably the biggest influence because it was, 94, 95. That was around the time I was 7 or 8, picked up a basketball, you know, watched him beat up on Shaq when he was playing for the Magic. And also the fact that he was player of the year, player of the month during Ramadan. That was something I had to go through as a player. So all of those things, that he was definitely number one. Being that I grew up in Ohio and LeBron was in high school at the same time, although I have my annoyances with some parts of his game, can't be perfect, right?
Right.
So just seeing him develop and be able to take care of his body and last this long, and, you know, you're being compared to, at the end of the day, you're being compared to the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan.
Yep.
who is going to be able to satisfy you and if you're being held to that standard.
He's one of the greatest. There's no doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I'd say those two, 100%. And then obviously Jordan. Jordan is Jordan. So Jordan being the most dominant. Kobe Bryant. Those are my four. Team. 94-95 Houston Rockets.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do they have Clyde on that team?
Yep. Clyde.
Robert Ory,
Sam Cassell, Kenny Smith. Yep. Just the underdog. Never underestimate the heart of a champion.
So I got to ask you then, man, if the Bulls and the Rockets would have faced up, who?
I can't say who, man, because you never know, but I know who I'd have been rooting for Hakeem in the Rockets. I would have definitely been rooting for him.
We got a lot of Houstonians up in this area, and anytime we meet up, they're always trying to throw it in my face. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if the Rockets would have took that,
That's tough, man. That's tough. Who stops Hakeem? There's some interesting matchups there.
It's interesting matchups. It'll be a great series.
Because, it would have been, I think it would have been a better series than the Jazz and the Bulls.
Oh, yeah. It would have been a fun series.
Yeah, it would have been the best possible competition that they could have had in the mid-90s.
It's interesting because just today I was cutting up some footage. I show you, I make sometimes basketball footage, and it was about fundamental basketball. Mm-hmm. So the guy that I was highlighting in the clip was Hakeem.
Yeah.
His foot movement, his footwork, and just the up and unders and the pivots and the this and the that, and it's like,
it's nuts.
It's crazy.
It is.
And the series of moves. It's not just one move, right? You find players now, it's hard enough for them just to pull up a basic move.
Right.
But this guy's putting on series of moves in just one possession.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Yep. Just the back to the basket game in general is almost, non-existent. But I do think that, the world comes full circle and you'll see a lot more of it. And it'll become more of a detrimental part of basketball again.
I hope, man. I remember 10 years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, and it didn't hit right away, but you started seeing small forwards sometimes guarding big men, and I would be like, why doesn't he just
post up,
take him to
just take him down,
and they wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, some of it has to do with the rule changes, no doubt, but then it started dawning on me okay, it's just the mentality is different.
Yes,
and some of these guys, at least to me, I think in their heart, because they grew up with social media, YouTube, they see the guys putting on the fancy moves. I mean, these guys are human just like us, right?
Right.
They probably think in their minds that they're like guards. They have guard-like skills, because I see it even with the guys I coach. Yeah. He's the tallest guy on the team, 6'5", 6'6", but he's standing out in the on the perimeter. Right.
We are very, very old school. Spring Creek, we do a lot from the block, and everybody kind of knows about us that we're a bit old school that way. We throw it down there, and we spend a lot of time just developing from there, because we do feel at the end of the day it's about where you feel like the game is going to evolve long term,
But how do you, sorry to interrupt, but how do you get the guys to buy in? Because one thing I've struggled with a little bit is I feel like if some of the guys played from the inside out, and because now teams don't even really defend against it. Yeah. If you just at this level, at the level my guys are playing, a couple basic moves, you could do such damage on the right. But how do you get the guys to buy in when what they're used to seeing is other than that?
Well, that's the other thing, is because of the way we're set up and the amount of outside noise that they really get. They don't go home to, and not to blame parents, I'm just saying in general, parents will have their own opinions, right? So they don't get to go home to parents that are going to tell them I don't get why you're playing on the inside. Well, that's not going to get you to college. They don't have their skills development coach. Our assistant coach, our staff does provides all of their basketball information, at least at the base, with the idea that when they're coached by somebody else, they're going to have the knowledge that there is another version of how you play the game. But I think that every coach is going to love the fact that they can go down to the block and get a bucket.
Of course. Easy 2 points.
So that's the thing, is having the hands-on amount of time with those kids on a daily basis. That's really the advantage. I don't know if it would be possible at the rate that we have them really buying in if it wasn't for the amount of time. And obviously the time and plus the results. Once they see that, oh man, this is actually working, there's no argument, there's no debate. So it's about getting them to buy in until there's the results that get them to where they need to get.
And then by that time they're convinced because it's
working. It's working. Why do I even need to listen to anybody else, right? Until it's your job to listen to somebody else. You got, one day when they graduate, they're going to have to forget a little bit of, or at least put aside what contradicts.
Move on to the next coach.
Right. So that's important.
Talk a little bit about, I got 2 more questions for you. So talk a little bit about, so you played at the national level for Algeria, correct?
Yeah.
Talk about that experience, man.
Oh, it was great, man. Had the opportunity to play starting my junior year of college, played for the Algerian national team, played professionally with GSP, the best club team in Algeria. Won 8 club championships.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 club and 7 cup championships. So there's 2 different things. There's like the single elimination tournament, which is the cup. Won that 7 times. Won the league 6 times, I believe. Yeah, something like that. And then with the national team, got to play in the African Championships.
Wow.
Played in the Mediterranean Games in Turkey,
Wow.
Istanbul, full going nuts. And then I've gotten to play against if I butcher names here, Sasha Vujacic.
Yeah, Vujacic. He played for the Lakers.
Yeah. Got to play against him when he was playing in Turkey professionally. Got to play against Gorgie Dang in 2015. Then there's Mike Taylor, played against him, who was drafted by I don't know if he's drafted, but he did get drafted, but I don't know if he got drafted by the Knicks or the Clippers. He played with both, I want to say. He played with both. He played with the Grizzlies. He's still actually active in the 3-on-3. What's it called? With Ice Cube. Yep. What are they?
Steven Jackson, all these guys are coaches.
Yeah, and they were actually down here in Dallas too.
I feel like that's where I've seen.
Mike is he's a good dude, man. I had him on my own podcast not too long ago, actually this summer, just catching up, seeing how he was doing. But he played in Lebanon. We played in an Arab championship of some sort. There's been a list of NBA guys. I got to play on my team, Devin Green, who backed up Kobe.
Yeah, I remember Devin Green.
Yeah, Devin Green. I actually invited him to play with our team in Algeria, and he came. He was in Argentina, I think, the year before.
Devin Green or Devin George?
Green. So Devin Green was drafted from Hampton the year Kobe scored 81.
Okay.
So he was Kobe's backup that year, and he didn't spend that much time in the NBA. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 years. But had a great career overseas, and late in his career, we played with each other in Algeria.
Wow,
was a cool experience too. He had some Kobe stories, and showed me a couple of warm-ups that Kobe used to do, some crazy stuff, but pretty neat stuff.
So then, last question is then, based on everything we've discussed and your own accolades. For the young guys who are serious about the game, from your own story, playing at the collegiate level, playing internationally, playing with NBA players, what advice do you have to these guys who want to take their game to the next level?
Okay, this is a great question and really important. So I think the biggest thing that separates human beings in any field is your ability to stay diligent on a daily basis, regardless to whatever situation or distraction comes your way. So the average college team, right? And this is coming from my story with my college teams that I played with and any other college athlete, right? You step onto campus as a freshman. Before semesters is over, one kid is ineligible, another kid has a rape charge, another kid has a drug charge. All sorts of things are happening, right? So kids are automatically, in general, going to eliminate themselves. So do right every day.
Wow.
And get the extra work done. So substitute the social unnecessary risks per se or distractions and put in 20 extra minutes of work.
Wow.
Every single day. Better than doing 3 and 4 hours. If you can't be obsessed, if you can't be a Kobe, then be a guy who just gets 20, 25 minutes every single day. And be aware of your weaknesses and work at it every single day. Don't make excuses. Because I talk to my alumni, and I love that they call me, and I love that I can call them, and they give me their ideas. And then I ask them if they're having issues, are those issues distracting you from what you need to get done? And they mostly have said no. So I'm like, okay, then you're doing all right. Are you doing your extra, regardless to this, or that may the distraction that you may be pointing out to me? And as long as they're able to say no, that means that they're still on track to get to their objective, and they're not making it an excuse. You're not making an excuse. You're just telling me what's going on. So that's really good. As long as it's okay. You recognize problem, but if you're making that your excuse to not get to where you need to get, then check yourself and make sure you get there, man. That's the thing that I'm passionate about, is making sure that message gets out to the kids, because we want to see as many of them, make it as possible. And that's the reason why I was able to do, anything. It wasn't athleticism. I was an under the rim guy. I was undersized. I was the 12th man on my junior college team as a freshman. I signed a week after school started, so I did not have any look after senior year to go play. I didn't have a scholarship. And then something went well. My head coach and then a teammate's dad, they knew the coach over at Edison State, Dave Zeller, who just passed away not too long ago. But he was he's willing to take a chance as a 12th, like I was a 12th man for him. And a couple of the point guards eliminated themselves by not getting it done, academically, which is it's unfortunate. I hope they're doing well, you know what I mean, in life. But it was opportunity for me, and there was only one guy to beat out. And then by November, going from not having a scholarship, August 27th, I was a starting point guard at a junior college. And then that off season, I was given enough. The coach gave me enough trust to where he actually allowed me to pretty much recommend recruiting.
Wow.
So some of the kids, I don't want to say they're handpicked because he still had to okay it, but he pretty much like, hey, coach, take a look at this kid. Take a look at that kid. Let's bring them to open gym. These kids can play. They showed that they could play. They were on the team. So, we had, I want to say 6 kids from Columbus, my hometown, that I was, developed a chemistry with, and it was a great opportunity. That was the opportunity that presented itself because I did the extra work. I wasn't a knucklehead. I gained the trust of the coach. I knew what he wanted and envisioned, and that's kind of the model I used throughout my career, is making sure I'm not gonna eliminate myself.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow. So, I love that as a model.
Yeah, just don't eliminate yourself. Stay in the fight. Stay in the fight.
I think your advice is golden, so I'm going to re-summarize it. Like, remove some of the social distractions.
Yep.
And just give an extra 20 minutes a day.
Yep.
And what's crazy is I think about this all the time. Now there's so many distractions out there.
Yeah.
Because of social media, like even VR, whatever, right?
So
even
much.
on your phone, there's so many different apps you can be using all the time.
Oh yeah.
So for the kids who just give like a fraction of their time to any effort, they could be something crazy and amazing.
Absolutely. It actually gives more opportunity, to really be different. So
wow.
That's it.
And just to take this home, mention to the audience right now, how many of your guys last year that were on the Spartans are playing at the college level now?
5 of them graduated. 5 of them are college basketball players. So one of them's in post-grad, but he's already signed his letter of intent. Before he even went to post-grad, he had already signed to the Columbia University in New York.
He's going to get a great education.
He's going to get a great education. I think his basketball experience is going to be great. and he has an opportunity to be, Ivy League Freshman of the Year. He's that type of player. They're expecting big things from him. He could have went to some mid-high major programs, and he took the route that would give him both.
Wow.
So it ain't about the popular route either.
Right.
A lot of people looked at him like, hey, you could have done this, you could have done that, but that was the perfect route for him.
Coach Mounir, we're going to thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
And to the audience, guys, check out the Spartans, Spring Creek Spartans. We're going to post a link to the team and the team schedule below. Check out the team. They're doing amazing things. Very unique program where everybody live together. They train together. The camaraderie is great. And the team, so far, I've been to one game. I think they won by like 40 points. So check them out, follow them, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.